Tim Collins, we're coming now with Cullman County Commissioner Garry Marchman. Garry, this was probably the most difficult and emotional commission meeting I've ever been to.
Tough meeting, Tim. Mr. Bates was here. I've known Mr. Bates. He's from the area that I grew up in, around the Jones Chapel, West Point area, and I've known him and his family probably all my life. And I knew his daughter from Wilburn's, and actually his daughter has been to my house before, so you know it's kind of personal and just a tough situation.
You mentioned at the podium that you're going to institute some changes, some review some policies. Can you get specific about what those are going to be?
Yeah, Tim, we would always did an armband check when people come in, and what that armband tells us is that they have been to the office and checked in and signed the waivers that's required to them. But we're going to implement a stop and go where before they enter into the trail, there at the main entrance, we'll be checking their armband. We'll make sure that they have seat belts in their vehicle and they are wearing them at that point. And we're going to implement a no cooler on the trails. Won't be allowed. They'll still be able to bring a cooler in if they're camping with us, but they won't be allowed anything on the trail.
Well, Garry, I know you raced out there Saturday night and got to see everything firsthand. What kind of assessment can you make? I know there's people who are, think that the park should be closed, all the way to people who say, this park's just fine. It's a risk. We all know it. We sign a waiver when we walk through the gates. Where are you at as a commissioner on this?
I don't necessarily think we need to close the park. I think we got to look at all our options. There's been talk in the past thrown around about privatizing the park, and that may even be an option. But we have policies in place, but we've got to make sure, first off, that the policies that we have in place and the standards that we have to, or the guidelines and the standards that we have, they've got to be met, and we've got to enforce these.
So the idea is no liquid refreshments on the trails, and you better be wearing all the necessary protective gear. That's the bottom line, it sounds like.
Yes, sir. And we've got some other recommendations that we want to get with the commission on, and it's our goal that we're a family-friendly and fun place to be. We don't want to see anybody leave there with being hurt or have to face a family that's lost a loved one. That's never our goal.
Well, it's part of our policy. It's part of our policy that we wear a seatbelt. Or that the patrons, if the vehicle has a seatbelt or a harness in it, and it requires a seatbelt, then you have to wear it. Now of course you don't have a seatbelt on a four-wheeler. But if you're on a four-wheeler, you have to wear a helmet. Now I have been down there and I've seen people riding four-wheelers and didn't have a helmet on. But they weren't necessarily there at the entrance. So we've got to put something in place to monitor this and to stay on top of it and make the penalty for not doing it very severe and strict.
Well, we just want to do all we can. It's like we were talking. When the weather conditions down there affects the trails. If it's really dry and it's dusty, it sometimes it makes for a dangerous situation. If it's rained extremely, they're slicker. It's kind of like driving on a highway. The inclement weather affects those trails just like it does the road. And safety needs to be an issue, whether it's dry, raining, or whatever it is, Tim. And that's our goal, because I don't want to ever have to face another family in a situation like this, or my staff to have to go through something like this again. Because like I told in the commission meeting, these are like friends and family. It ain't someone we see once a year, and when they come back in, they're usually monthly, patrons that come to the park each time, maybe sometimes, weekly.
Well, it seems reasonable to me, if for instance, motorcycle riders on highways, there's certain rules. You have to have a helmet, you have to do this, you have to do that. It seems natural that you'd want to do it in a far more high-risk environment like Stony Lonesome. Just if I was a rider or a driver out there, I'd want to be bundled up. I wouldn't want to risk it.
Right. We just got to make sure that we've got some policies that we're probably going to try and tweak, and even some that we might even change. But the biggest thing is we've got to enforce these policies. They've got to be enforced.
Now I've got one last question. There are parks like this, not exactly like Stony, but there's off-road parks all over the country. Mm-hmm. They face these same problems. I know you've talked to them in the past. Is there anything you can draw from these other parks and off-road facilities that can help you in this situation?
Well, just, and like you said, a lot of us, we know each other, the directors will kind of speak, or the park manager, because they'll come visit our parks at times to see what we're doing, and we do them the same way. And we just, we did some research from other parks out of state. I think there was nearly 30 parks that we pulled their rules and guidelines from, and looked if we wasn't doing that, would that be something we wanted to secure or add to ours as well. And when I said that we got some more rules coming, that's what I want to do, is get with the commission, make sure that everybody's on the same page and comfortable with what we move forward with to make it a safe place as we can, Tim.